everyone, and welcome back to Fear the Final Girl, a Ryder Games podcast. My name is Jamie. I am your host, and I am joined by my co-host, Evan.
It's me, Evan.
I wasn't going to make him say, hi, Evan, again.
Yeah, no.
The joke is dead.
Now you've
You
called it
said
out.
Hello.
I know, but I just you were waiting for it.
Say hello, Evan.
Hello. I do like that.
Evan.
Evan. Oh, gosh, it continues.
Make
It continues. The pain continues.
It'll never
go away. You guys
go
were all
away.
ready to make it end, and I just jumped in there and
Sometimes a
enforced it.
joke needs to continue. It just is what it is. So, you've been asking for it, and we're delivering. Today's episode is all about Final Girl, and we are welcoming back AJ and Julie. They are rejoining us. They were here for the first episode, and now, of course, they're joining us for the Final Girl episode because it's only right. This is the way. And today, we will be answering your questions about Final Girl. So, welcome back to the show, AJ and Julie. Happy to have you back.
Thanks for having us.
Happy
We're
to
glad
be
to be
here.
here.
Good.
At this point, in the show, we love to talk about what we have been watching, reading, consuming, listening to, playing, etc., etc. So, AJ, why don't you go first? What has been on the AJ pop culture docket these days?
I actually watched a movie called Willy's Wonderland just recently.
That's
This
with
is a
Nicolas
horror
Cage,
movie
isn't it?
with Nicolas Cage, and he's a mute. He doesn't have a line in the entire movie, which is super interesting and worked in a weird way. It is very campy, very silly. The premise is it's animatronic. This animatronic restaurant, a la Chuck E. Cheese kind of deal, has a horrible incident in the past, and people get killed, right? And so the movie starts off as just Nicolas Cage driving down the road, and he hits like a spike strip, and his tires just get blown out. So sure enough, the tow truck guy comes, picks him up, brings him into the nearby town, and they're like, "Oh, sorry, we don't take credit cards. You're gonna have to pay with cash." And it's $1,000 or whatever. And he's like, of course, doesn't have that much cash. So this is the gambit, basically, to get someone into the place. And they say, hey, if you just clean up this old restaurant we're trying to reopen, we'll get your car fixed. We'll have it outside waiting for you when you're done. The guy comes out, the proprietor, and explains all this and how he wants to reopen and blah, blah, blah. And that's the beginning. And if someone wants to watch it, they can. Obviously, chaos ensues throughout the night, and it was pretty good. Like, it actually, like, I didn't find myself looking at my phone or doing other stuff, which I will tend to do if the movie is not sort of grabbing me. I also would not give it a huge recommendation. Like, it's kind of a nice 6 or 7 if you're in the mood for like some animatronics kind of super silly
If you're in
horror
the mood,
stuff.
When the
for
mood
some
strikes.
Five Nights at
animatronics.
Freddy's adjacent.
Yeah, if you're a Five Nights at Freddy's fan, and I actually haven't seen the movie. I mean, my kids play the game and stuff, so I know about Five Nights at Freddy's, but I haven't seen the movie or anything, so I don't know. I can't compare it to that. But it was decent fun. Nicolas Cage not speaking through the whole movie it's just kind of interesting, actually. And you're wondering, is he going to at some point or not the whole movie? Like, I don't know. I didn't know a ton about it going into it, but I watched it for reasons. So yeah.
And what about you, Julie?
Well, I almost feel like Jamie and I should do ours together because we had
A marathon.
we had a movie marathon where we watched like 9 movies. I don't know. It was
Ooh.
a lot. So I'm gonna pick one of them. I'm gonna pick Dolls.
Wait. Did you really
Yeah.
watch 9 movies?
Yeah.
Over the course
That's
of
not an
several
exaggeration?
days. Yeah,
No, we
still
watched
a lot of
of
movies.
movies. Yeah,
we did. We did.
We got after it.
And there were so like the first night, we picked some of our like guilty pleasures
Mhm.
kind of a thing, and then the other two, like there was the different qualifications every night. But the first night we picked the 3, and that we watched. One of them was Dolls, the original from the 80s. There's a newer version. We watched the original, and neither of us had ever seen it, and so it was not our pick. But really liked it. I really enjoyed it. So it's 80s rific with the over the top. It wasn't the Crypt Keeper, but you feel like he could pop out at any time and have a running snarky commentary. But random people are fine. Cars break down, and they go to this house, and it's run by an elderly couple and then clearly over time, multiple people have mysteriously disappeared because the dolls inside kill them. And you can't tell if it's evil spirits or aliens. I'm not sure what is possessing them, but they were gross and very like stop animation with claymation feel to them when they actually broke apart. Super fun, way over the top. The people who are getting offed are very unlikable, so you're kind of cheering for the dolls. And then there's a little girl, and they're kind of championing the little girl because she relates to them better than she relates to adults. So there's a little bit of that too, and it was fun, and I enjoyed it.
I loved it.
I was wondering if that was before or after Chucky, and it was
in that same time period. I feel like
I just checked. It was right before it came out, before Chucky. So
the original dolls, got it before Chucky. Yeah, I'm interested in watching the new one. Actually, I really liked it. It was very campy, like very. It was over the top 80s, which is exactly what it needed to be.
Wait, so there's a new one coming, or
it's already
there's
out.
already a new one?
It's already out.
There's a more recent one.
Oh, okay.
Does it just have the same title, or is it an actual remake?
It had the same title, but I also believe it was a remake.
Because
I
would say Dolls from that isn't a movie that was crying out for a remake.
According to you.
Right? They just said they really liked it. So.
Yeah.
How about you, Jamie?
Yeah, what about you, Jamie? Which of the 9 marathon movies is your pick for best?
So, it's obviously going to be Dead Alive, which is one of the first movies that we watched. And not only that, Julie, I've rewatched it already and made Jeff watch it and two of my friends.
Proud of you.
So, for anybody that doesn't know, Dead Alive is Peter Jackson's first movie, and he basically went right from that to Lord of the Rings, and I could see the transition. So, this was this 80s as well? I assume
Yes.
it was the 80s, and it is just the most outrageous zombie movie I think I've ever seen. It's set in New Zealand, and the acting, perfection, no notes, like it's just perfect. It's about like these people bring back this rat monkey from some island and take it to the zoo, and it's very clearly like some kind of like zombie gross thing, and then it bites somebody, which then starts this epidemic, but it's following these Paquita and I forget what his name is, but this couple that's like dating, and he has this overbearing mother, but then everybody around him starts turning into zombies, and like, oh my god, I don't even know what to say about it other than everybody needs to watch it. It was like genuinely enjoyable. It was so bad it was good. And all I have to say is there's a perfect line in it where somebody says, "I kick ass for the Lord." And it's the best line in any movie ever.
And describe the best scene in the movie. So there's one scene that's the best scene, and you have to agree with me on what the best scene is.
Is it when the priest kicks ass for the Lord and beats up all the zombies? That's the best scene to me.
No, it's one thing that is used.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I know what you're talking about. It's the
best actor in the movie.
Yeah, when
not a human.
Bodies are chopped up, they are still animated, and there is one that is the gastrointestinal system of a person, and their butthole can talk.
Or is it the baby?
There's a lot of gross. There's a lot of weird gross.
Are you talking about the lawnmower?
I'm talking about the lawnmower.
Yes, the lawnmower. Yeah.
With all
There's
the
a lot of
jello.
gems. There's a
Well,
lot of
That
gems.
whole movie is perfect. How could I pick?
How is holding the lawnmower up and just going
Yeah.
not the best scene?
I mean,
that's the one I remember.
that's what I remember. Yeah.
Apparently,
Yes.
I've completely forgot about the talking butthole, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big
mean,
part.
yeah.
Big part of the movie.
I put a lawnmower in If I'm Going Down as an homage to that exact
you really?
thing.
That's
Oh yeah,
amazing.
yeah. I did not put a talking butthole in the game.
Well, you should have.
Did not even think to.
Totally underserved.
That was a miss. That was a miss.
Is that our next final girl killer?
I
Yep.
feel like yes, talking. We just
And
We
the
have jumped the shark,
Lungs-
everybody.
the lungs
that's
were the
it.
arm.
Nobody was going to go see this, and now they are.
Everybody's
welcome.
got to watch it. So
we'll just
good.
call the killer Mr. Sphincter.
Exactly.
Gosh.
Mr. Sphincter, the talking asshole. Never mind. Now we've gone completely off the rails.
I do just want to also say I have been watching the show Evil. Evan, did you recommend that to me, or was that somebody else?
I did not
Okay, well,
recommend it.
it's a really good show, so I'm just shouting it out.
Speaking of
'cause-
jumping the shark,
yeah, it's a really good show. So I'm just saying everybody needs to watch Evil. It's very
but
good.
it goes off the rails in the most delightful way.
Well,
I never even heard of it. What's it on?
It is on Paramount through Amazon Prime. And it's just basically, it's like a priest in training, a psychologist, and some random guy who try to determine whether or not people are actually possessed. But it's like a supernatural style show, so you don't know, like, is it supernatural or do these people have something going on in their head? And it just gets crazier and crazier, and it's very good.
That sounded like the beginning of a go into the bar joke. Like you were like
a priest, a psychologist, and some random guy.
Go into a bar.
Yeah.
It starts very like, is it in their heads or is it real? And it just
Gets crazier.
gets not more and more. Like every season, you're just like, how can they top that? And they do. It's
Yeah.
So this is
yeah.
like a high recommend from you guys.
Oh, high recommend, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The guy who plays Luke
Interesting.
Cage is the main character. So there you go.
there you go.
That's the like cherry on top, the
Yeah.
defining point. Okay.
I don't know his-
As the
I don't know his
priest
name.
in training.
Yeah.
And
All right.
the other actor who was I can't remember. He's been in
He was in Lost.
Chile.
Are you thinking of
yeah, in
Leland? Yeah.
Lost. Yeah.
Is this something I can watch like 1 or 2 episodes and know right away if I'm gonna like it, or do I have to like stick with it?
It took Jeff like 4 episodes to get totally hooked. I was hooked right away, but I think you need to watch at least like 4, and then you're gonna
Okay.
get committed to the story. And then it gets
I like to
crazy.
know.
Just
I like to
vaguely
know like
unsettling.
how much I need to get. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like with
Yeah.
so
Well,
much
part of
out
it
there
being,
these days.
it is a slow burn from vaguely unsettling, and maybe it's just psychological to. Nope, this is crazy pants, and then nope, it's even more crazy pants, and then what the hell is happening? Like it
Okay.
really,
Yeah.
is it very? They're
Interesting.
playing the long game there.
Totally.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
So I saw Alien Romulus. Am I the only one who's seen it?
Oh, I haven't
Yes, I wanted to go and was not able to.
Uh,
Thanks for inviting me, by the way.
it was in the middle of the day at 2:00 while I took my youngest to see a movie with her friends, and it just happened to work out that I could go see it by myself. So, but no, my thinking as I went to see it was, I really don't want to invite AJ to see this. I am so glad he is not here right now. Screw that guy.
Yeah.
So you did suss that out correctly. I was talking to one friend, and I had described it as the Force Awakens of the Alien franchise. Like, it doesn't do, it hits all this, like all the Alien notes that you expect. It hits all of them almost to a T. And other than the fact that there's not a cat in the movie, I feel like that's the one thing that they were throwing literally every single alien thing they
We've
could
cracked
in.
the alien code. Here's
There's
how
not
it goes.
There's not a cat, but it's great. It's good. It's very solid. Doesn't reinvent the wheel or anything, but it's very enjoyable, and it's got some really fun moments. So after Prometheus and Covenant, thank goodness, we got an alien movie that's just a decent alien movie. So I'd be excited to see what the director, Fede Alvarez, does when Disney gives him more money, which hopefully they will do. So,
well, in the Kickstarter comments, some people are disagreeing with you. They like those two other movies,
Prometheus and
FYI.
Covenant.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's weird. That's like I guess you can. It's almost like saying I really like the prequel Star Wars movie. Like, there are people out there who exist, but do we really trust them or want to listen to anything they have to say?
Wow.
Oh, Evan, we're going to fight later so hard.
Evan's going in hard.
I know. I woke up today and chose violence.
Yeah, going after the Star Wars community. Good idea.
It's the prequels. It's low-hanging fruit. Anyway.
Okay, so every episode we do choose a word or a term that is the word of the month. That is helping those of you out there who maybe don't know a ton about board games and board gamey things and all of that good stuff. So here's the word or term for today. It's going to be hand management. And I picked this because it's a big element in Final Girl. And obviously this episode is all about Final Girl. AJ showing off his hands because it is very confusing. Many people think
managing my hands.
I don't know what to do with my hands. What do I do? That's not it. So
because for those of you listening right now, I am putting my face down in my hands.
You're managing your hand to your face?
Yeah,
because
good job.
AJ's shaking his hands is so painful that I just can't even. Anyway, I'm sorry, Jamie. Continue with what hand management actually is.
So, in many a board game, you have cards, and sometimes you need to manage those cards, which is a big thing in Final Girl. So you have a hand of cards, there's a limit of 10, and every round you're going to be potentially adding cards into your hand. This is very different from deck building because those cards are going to go away. So that's basically what hand management is. You're managing the cards that are in your hand, knowing when to use them, when to hold on to them, when to get new cards that you're eventually going to lose. So that's what we mean when we say hand management, unless somebody has a better explanation.
That's a very good explanation.
You got to know when to hold them.
Yes.
Know when to fold them.
Exactly.
Know when to walk away. Know when to run.
That's why they wrote that song. It was about hand management. Exactly. Yes.
So dumb.
Oh. Anyway, so we do feature a product of the month because this is a Ryder Games podcast. And surprisingly enough, the product for this month is Final Girl.
What?
Now,
what?
I guess, I mean, it says here in my show notes that I'm supposed to give an overview of Final Girl. Like,
that's a lot of products.
It is a lot of products.
It is a lot of products. Anyway, okay, I will explain. Assuming someone is listening to this for the very first time and has no clue who we are or what Final Girl is, which seems like a stretch. Final Girl is a single-player board game that recreates your favorite horror movie moments. So it is all about you killing the killer or the killer killing you. And it is wildly expandable. We have 10 feature films currently, with another 5 feature films on the way. And each feature film features a different killer in a different iconic location. And the more you get, the more you can mix and match, so that you can not only face Hans, our masked killer at Camp Happy Trails, recreating some of the most famous horror movie scenarios, but there's also a feature film set in space, so you can play Hans on a spaceship, because you literally can. The horror movies mix and match all that kind of stuff, and Final Girl just really does that really well. So that's Final Girl, and I guess we are going to be answering fan questions now about Final Girl.
That's true.
Wow, don't sound so excited. I guess
Jeez,
I just answer some fan questions.
Yes, God.
Sorry,
Yikes.
I was in exposition voice, explaining voice.
Hmm.
Woo-wee! Questions from our fans. Let's go!
There you go. Now
I bet he peaked the mic on that one for sure.
I probably
for
did.
sure. Audacity is mad. Yeah,
loud.
you peaked my mic. All right, let's get into that monthly topic, shall we? So, as everybody knows, The month's topic is Final Girl, and we are answering your burning questions. We're going to break down origins, the evolution of Final Girl, dissect what makes it a fan favorite. And I have asked our Discord, the Van Ryder Games Discord, which you should definitely join, to ask their questions. So that is where all of the questions have come from. They have come straight from the fans. So for anybody that doesn't know, Evan, AJ, and Julie have all designed feature films, okay? They have designed them. They have been out there. You have played them. So they are the best people to answer these questions. So let's start off with an easy one. Shall we? We shall. Which feature film came together the quickest, and which one took the longest to crack the gameplay mechanic for?
You want to take that, Evan? You want to start, or you want me to?
It's.
We could have different answers, I guess.
We could have different answers.
The general answer is, I mean, Hans was the first one, right? So we spent a ton of time on that one.
But that was
to make
because
sure the game itself
yes.
worked, right? So like, that was, that's that one answer. But then if we're going to take each feature film individually, we'd probably each have our own response.
Yeah, I feel like probably the ones I can remember coming together the fastest, I think the one you did for North Pole Nightmare
Mm-hmm.
came together real quick and fast. I don't know if much changed from your original iteration of the mechanics. So I think that one, it was also by necessity because we had 9 months to get it ready to ship by Christmas. It had to come together quickly, but I remember that one being very fast.
Yeah, I mean, there's one rule for the location, basically, and a little more work on the Krampus side, but I had a lot of... it just like all hit me one day, and yeah, I prototyped it, I think, within days of going to you and saying, hey, what do you think? I think I want to do this. And you played it, and yeah, I mean, I think I took a round or two of feedback, and then it was done. Made a few like small tweaks, and it was done.
I think one of the hardest ones to come together was actually Ratchet Lady. That one went through multiple iterations, both with the killer and the location, where stuff was not working, and we had to go back to the drawing board. I think the Ratchet Lady, the mechanic in that is that you're in an insane asylum, and she's basically converting all the victims to maniacs, like turning them into crazed, bloodthirsty inmate patients who come trying to claw your eyes out. And there was so any feature film, we've learned now, any feature film where the killer involves minions, meaning they've got like little helpers running around, is very, very difficult to get to work well. A lot of times there's a lot of rules and exceptions. They get wonky. There's a lot of questions that come up when players are playing them. Can they do this? Geppetto from the first season had puppets, and the puppets are wildly complicated in terms of how they work. And so the Ratchet Lady had minions, and it took a long time to figure out just what the right balance was between getting them work.
Yeah, totally would echo that. I mean, we've learned anything with minions. Part of the challenge with minions is making sure they don't just kill you in like 2 seconds, because when you have multiple enemies doing the killer actions, like, it doesn't take long. If you triple or quadruple the killer action, suddenly you have 3-4 victims dying when you would have had one with an individual killer. And so, yes, I completely agree with that, Evan.
Basically, the more variables you introduce, so it's not just one killer, it's now a killer and X number of minions, the harder it is to control how a game will play out, and the more wildly divergent the outcomes can be. So you can have games that could just go completely off the rails and be, and we like that sometimes. We like it when you're playing a game and weird stuff happens that you've never seen before, and maybe it wasn't possible for you to win, and that's kind of entertaining. But there's a limit to that. There's a range, and the more variables you introduce, and minions introduce a lot of variables, the more difficult that is for us to control.
Julie, what's your quickest and longest?
Well, I will say my first one didn't take very long. Doing Once Upon a Full Moon, I had a pretty clear vision and sent everything, and then got the feedback of, hey, this is all really cool, but you can't do this with the system kind of stuff. So coming up with the ideas, but then also fixing them. Of course, that was with a lot of assistance and advice from AJ. So it went very quickly. And the same thing with, well, it's not out yet, but Grandma's Grudge. I feel like that was just us having a conversation in the wee hours of the morning after playtesting all day and having a random conversation. And that came together very quickly. So but I also, standing on the shoulders, I already had a system and got to play a bunch of stuff. So that made it a lot easier. Also, I on the spectrum of difficulty, they were on, or at least, Red and Big Bad Wolf are on the easier side. Going forward, I'm trying to do something that's a little bit more, has a little more complexity to it. And how quickly it goes off the rails is the factor that I'm running into a lot of times.
I mean, the wolf can get very nasty, so it's not just like always. Mm-mm. It can be
He's
sometimes
quintessentially
easier.
The push your luck part of it, which is what I was trying to do, and that is fun. Yeah. So if you put off a tending house as the final girl, you're in for a world of hurt later on.
So this is a fun question, and I'm really curious for this one. But if you can make a film out of one of the feature films, which is it, and who would you cast in that film?
Oh, that's easy for me.
Do it.
I mean, Hans is the obvious choice. I think he's one of the killers that I'm the most proud of creation-wise, even for how he exists and the pieces we put together to build him and his mask and everything. It doesn't reinvent the horror wheel, but I'm really pleased with him as like our masked killer. Mm-hmm. And let's see. If Hans was going to talk, I'd cast Dave Bautista as Hans. But if he wasn't going to talk, I'd cast who's the guy?
Nicolas Cage.
No. Who's the guy who played the Mountain in Game of Thrones? He's got he's like from Iceland or something. It's like Bjorn.
Was like in an 80s band. Rock
Bjorn Bolison or something like that. He's giant. He probably make the most sense.
All right, I'm going to go with the organism, and I want Ryan Reynolds, even though he's not a final girl, but I want him just there. He doesn't have to be the final girl. I think the final girl I would want, what's the who's the lady from Saturday Night Live?
Tina Fey.
Kristen Wiig?
Yes, Tina Fey. I want Tina Fey. Absolutely. Tina Fey and Ryan Reynolds running around trying to test people, figure out, but it's just filled with comedy. And that's my movie.
I love it.
My final girl would be Chloe Grace Moretz. I'd cast her.
What about you, Julie? So many options.
I'm feeling like I would like to see a Krampus. Mm-hmm. It's the best of all the holidays. You get a little Halloween, you get a little Christmas. So I would like a Krampus movie. Playing Krampus would be a tough. I mean, you're just going to be in full costuming and makeup. So, I don't know. There's several actors who specialize in that, but I think I'm not going to remember his name. But he was two different Buffy monsters.
Doug Jones.
Thank you. I think he would be good. And then for Mrs. Claus, I think I'd want Neve Campbell.
Interesting choice.
She's a little young for it still. I understand, but also the amount of dancing and stuff that she does, she's I don't know, stayed very fit as she's gotten older, and I feel like I want someone who's got some level of gravitas, but not completely serious, but also feels like they could be jacked enough to play the Mrs. Claus who, as I saw her, as somebody who could, take care of the reindeer and then go play roller derby at night, kind of Mrs. Claus. That's who I'm looking for.
So, fun fact, Doug Jones, who you mentioned, he was in Pan's Labyrinth. He's the creepy monster with the eyes in Pan's Labyrinth. He did Silver Surfer in the original, or the second Fantastic Four. He was Abe Sapien in Hellboy. So, if you ever need to put someone in makeup, Doug was a mime. I know all this because I know him. Doug, I was actually in a movie.
I know him.
I was in a movie with Doug Jones, and
That's
Doug
cool.
Jones killed me in the movie.
As
So,
Krampus.
fun fact.
Wow,
No.
everything has come full circle.
just my little claim to fame there.
Now we have to manifest something so that Evan can be an extra in the Krampus movie and be
Get killed again by Doug Jones.
By Doug Jones.
Well, that would just make my
you
heart.
could be one of
my-
the elves exploding presents. Poof. Evan's
Yeah,
gone.
you open. Yeah, for sure.
That seems like a fitting end to me for me.
Ooh, what's this?
You could be the head elf.
Yeah. Any thoughts on potentially creating more games in the Final Girl universe? What about using the hostage negotiator or Final Girl system for a new game with another theme? Thoughts?
I mean, we've definitely had these discussions many times and considerations. So there's no formal plans currently, but it is a conversation we're having pretty regularly. So I think that's definitely a possibility. Right now, our primary focus has been on Final Girl proper. And so maybe as we get more resources and more just more possibilities make themselves known, then yeah, we might be able to do something.
I have a number of ideas for Final Girl games, different games set in the Final Girl world that are not solo games necessarily, specifically. So, but they're just ideas right now and require time and, as AJ mentioned, resources to bring to a reality.
Yeah, but you said
Yes,
it out
this is
loud,
where I
so
talk
now there's
about
blood in
how
the water.
ideas are
I
the
know.
easy part.
So in terms of other games that might use the Final Girl model, like I've been developing some. The problem is that the Final Girl model, the box model, everything was so specifically created for Final Girl. It is very challenging to find something else that would just slot right into that same kind of format. So
Well, were they asking it for? I don't think they were asking for it to be necessarily the same format, just in the same universe, I guess, right?
no, that was the second
same
part of the
system.
question.
Yeah. What about using
same
the
system.
the
right,
system?
okay, yeah,
Using the
That's
Final
fair
Girl
then,
system
yeah.
to create like a completely different genre of game.
yeah.
Part of
Okay.
Part of the issue is the way we make games, the way we create games, is that they're very thematic, and it's not easy to just transplant the mechanics over to another genre. For people who play a lot of board games, there's a lot of Euro games out there. Euro games tend to be fairly themeless, and so you can take one that's set in space and then put it in the French Renaissance and then turn it into zombies. I could literally take a Euro game and put all three of those themes on it pretty effortlessly and make them work okay. But the kinds of games we make at Van Ryder the theme and mechanics are so connected that it's difficult to extract them.
Are you trying to tell me there's not going to be a Final Girl farming sim version?
I would almost take a little bit of the reverse, because I mean, we did it right with Final Girl. Like people thought it was just going to be a reskin of Hostage and the same thing, and it's actually not. There's a lot of significant and meaningful differences, and I think we could do that again. Like I mean, I've had ideas for a fantasy version of using the system. I think that we could do it, but to your point, Evan, we don't just. It's not just a cut and paste. Like we would take the core and whatever parts we thought made sense with that theme, and then adjust it with the others. So it's definitely something we could do, but you are right. Like there's a lot more to that, and nuance and things to tackle. And so it's not a simple effort of just, oh, we're gonna put a fighting theme on Final Girl, and like we could do that, but that's just not how we work. We want to really lean into the thematic elements of whatever we're doing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Was there any idea or suggestion from the community that you implemented directly into the game?
Yes.
Yes. So, I'm having a hard time remembering, but I guess AJ remembers.
Yeah. So one of the things we did, and this was technically after the first printing was released, a lot of people, we have, of course, spoiler alert, if you don't know, we have hidden envelopes underneath the inserts. And we found a lot of the community, like on Board Game Geek or wherever else, was saying, well, they didn't know when to open it. We didn't give any instructions. You could just, honestly, you could open it whenever you wanted, was the idea. But board gamers need instructions. So they were asking, when can I open this? And a lot of people were saying that they would open it when they won a game with that Final Girl. And we loved that so much that we actually implemented that into the second and every printing after, where now on the envelopes it says you can open it when you survive or win a game as the Final Girl.
Mm-hmm. The thing is, the discourse is so full and present, and so you get a lot of people throwing out ideas. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, often we've come up with things and then somebody said it afterwards, or vice versa. So it is funny to see sometimes, when somebody makes a prediction that comes true. And
they think it's their idea.
And they think it's their idea, but get super excited. And sometimes,
even though we've been working on it for months. Yes.
Yeah. But, they're tapping into the consciousness of what makes the game exciting, which is having all these ideas and possibilities of what horror movies could be included.
Yeah, I actually had to learn to manage my own internal, because as someone who works on it and as the creators, we know how much more happens and goes into actually making this thing that is a game on the shelf, from the point where you have that just fleeting idea come in. And so for a while, when all these ideas are coming in, I would feel some kind of pressure on me, oh my God, we gotta do what the fans want. And it's a natural to have an emotional attachment to your own idea, even though most of these ideas we've had many times way before, and so I had to learn to, because it's fun to have ideas. So I had to step back from the there's no pressure. People just want to share their ideas. They have good ideas. It's fun. I had to step back from the feeling there was some expectation that we needed to go make this thing. Because there's some people say, you need to take some fan ideas and do what fans, do some things fans think are cool. And yes, we're trying to do that. But we also have a lot of our own ideas, or the same ideas that we've already had. And so to Julie's point, I'm sure it happens all the time. I mean, pre-series 2, there was people were making their lists of what they wanted, and I've literally seen people say, "Oh, cool, they took my idea and use it," and that's fine. No, there's no problem of people thinking, I guess, and feeling we saw their post and that was what made us decide to go make a certain feature film. But the reality is we are already planning well before we even announce a new series. And so the decisions before those posts have come out are usually already been made. Anyways, I'm rambling.
Next question. This should be a relatively quick one. Does a revenge pack Final Girl need to have their own appearance in a feature film beforehand?
I know that the community has latched onto the term revenge pack. The technical term is character packs, but they're talking about Carolyn's Revenge and Grandma's Grudge are the two that we've done so far, both based on characters that have been in, and I say in with quotes because Grandma is, yes, she's in the theme of
Once Upon a Full Moon.
Once Upon a Full Moon, but there's no special victim for Grandma or anything like that. Whereas Carolyn is also not a special victim, but has a feature role kind of in the Poltergeist film. We don't like to set like restrictions on stuff. There's a certain merit to having characters that have appeared before, but we would never say, like, if we want to do something, if we want to bring a special character pack in that's never been anywhere, we would do it. Like, I don't know, Evan, what do you think about that?
I agree. I mean, rules like that can help us in the product development stage. Like, if you just have an open-ended blank page, that can be too much. So sometimes it helps if it's like, okay, the character packs have worked a certain way, so it helps guide the development of future ones, which is helpful. But at the same time, we don't want to get put in a box where we can't do whatever. So I would say, to the question, no, they don't. We don't have any hard and fast rules specifically around that. Although, who knows, if we come up with another one or two that work exactly the same way, then we will have painted ourselves into the corner that we are now talking about not wanting to paint ourselves into. So that's entirely possible.
Like we did with vignettes.
Like we did with vignettes. Yep.
Yeah.
But I do think the one thing that both of ours had in common were me having only done the one film, and you having Wire Range, is if we could go back to a feature film, what else could we do sort of to play with it to make it a little different, was kind of the starting point of the conversation, at least when you came to me about it. But that wasn't a hard and fast rule. That was almost like the writing prompt before you start, so it wasn't a rule. It was is there something else, something more you would like to have done with the final girl? And I was and immediately there was a yes.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, Carolyn's Revenge had been in process for a while. I knew I wanted to do that. And we were just discussing, I think, like, what are some other stretch goals we could do? And like that conversation came up, like you said, at the retreat, and you and I designed it in our heads in a very short time. Yep. And then it was like, okay, like, this could be cool. Like, let's do. So, and these aren't out yet, so we probably need to like pump the brakes a little and see. I think they're going to go over very well, but obviously we have tester feedback, but I mean, I'm like a little nervous. Like, people are so excited about them. I'm like, oh gosh, are people like creating too high of expectations? Yeah. So like, I'm a little nervous, but they are cool. And so we'll see. But I think already before they're even out, people are, I think, wanting more of those, and it would be fun to do more. But yeah, let's see how they go over.
Perfect. I would like to see one that's just the golf cart. Revenge of the golf cart as a final goal.
Revenge of the golf cart.
Our Discord has gotten to you.
They have.
Golf cart.
They have. Okay, so here's what the community said. Your wish of a Gen Con 2025 takeover is granted, but in order for that to happen, a Final Girl musical has to be made. Which feature film do you choose to turn into a musical, and why?
Oh my gosh.
Mine's easy. I'm going, if you guys will allow, you look like you need a little time to think. I'm going to go with Geppetto at the carnival and dancing puppets singing around while people die in traps. Interestingly, we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but we now have where you can talk to the killers in our Discord. Geppetto's bringing up like dancing all the time. So he's ready for it. I think that we are like, that should be it. It's forget all those other movies. The dance time at the carnival. That's the one.
My choice would be The Intruders. I mean, who hasn't seen The Strangers and thought this would be better if it was a musical? No one. You've got three killers. They can dance with each other. They can dance.
It's time to kill you. It's time to kill you. I'm gonna stab you in the neck and I will kill you.
I mean, it writes itself, honestly.
Man, I can see it.
I'm on board. You know what? I'm not going to pick a different. I'm on with Evan's idea. Just that seems actually The Intruders is the scariest to me. So turning it into a musical has also the twofold of at least then I could maybe bring myself to play it without freaking myself out. So although I have written a Final Girl song to start you off.
You have
already.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is actually terrifying. Like a home invasion, and they're just like singing in the next room.
Yeah.
Oh my god! Like,
I
mean, it's like the record playing in The Strangers is like super haunting and creepy, right? Like, oh, dude, someone actually like singing in a low man. Yeah, that'd be good. Good call, Evan. So you doubled down on that, Julie? Is that what that was?
Yeah, no, I'm on board for The Intruders.
Good.
My first thought was Geppetto as well, AJ, if that makes you feel better, just because of the carnival music is just something.
Yeah.
It's already there. There's classics
I think
there
we need to make
already.
both of these.
Yeah,
It's
let's
2 to
do
2
it.
tied, so they both have
Perfect.
to be made.
When you play test, do you ever mix and match the killers and locations, or do you mostly just test the feature films? And have you ever had to tweak or scrap something because it didn't mix well with others?
So we just test each one time. We had its home location, and then we just started making.
Yeah, it's easy.
No, I'm
Just
kidding,
like that.
I'm kidding.
So initially when we're designing, we will test just with the killer. We've gotten to the point now where we understand the system really well that we are already able to anticipate most of the cascading problems that might exist with introducing a killer to another location. Stuff will come up where it's just like, oh, we hadn't thought about that, but for the most part, we can immediately, nix any ideas that are just not going to teleport well between the different boxes. But from our internal testing here at the office, we mostly just test the killer and the location. It's once we break it out to our bigger, wider playtesting team, they will do the same thing. They will test the killer with the location, and then at some point we let them take it and transport different killers to that location and that killer to different locations. And that's when we'll begin to see maybe some of the interactions that might not work as well. So,
yeah, I'll just add, I mean, the way it tends to happen is because we've been doing these a series at a time is you'll get a fair amount of testing at the other locations within that series, whatever that film is in. So like series 3 was cross tested a lot with other series 3 locations, and then some with earlier ones, but it's getting to the point now. I mean, there's so many combinations that you're just not going to be able to get an adequate amount of testing with every single one. And to Evan's point, him and I and all of us have an idea, and we future-proof it almost. Like we're thinking about that, I guess is what I'm trying to say, in the design process to minimize issues. But this is why we created the rules of ambiguity, because it's impossible. Like there's going to be stuff come up that someone in a game somewhere gets that has never happened in any of our games or even in a playtester's game. And, the rules of ambiguity are there to help deal with that. So if there is just a weird interaction and there's no rules, we have given folks this tool to use, which most like. Some want to know every possible interaction to have a rule, and it's not really feasible to do that. So, yeah.
But for a
Totally
thematic game, it gives you the permission to what is the most thematic thing, and I love that about it. That do what makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We give you the permission in writing. Like it's in the rule book. This is what you do, and I think for most people,
it works.
It's like, oh, okay. Like whereas like some gamers, like I'll do that in other games, even if they tell me you don't. Like just because I don't want to swim in the rule book, I'm just like, and Jamie, you do it on stream all the time.
Yep.
Like, what makes the most sense here? Okay, that's what I'm going to do.
Or what's the funniest? Or this
because,
would be hilarious if this happened this way.
Right.
Yeah, because in an immersive game, the last thing you want is someone having to go check rules all the time. So like, we would much rather you stay in the immersion, even if there is an official rule. Who cares? Use the rule of ambiguity and like keep the story going, keep the immersiveness in there.
And no game is for everyone. and there were a lot of initial reviews before Final Girl became more of a known quantity from people who primarily played Euro games or other stuff. I remember there being a lot of some very specific negative comments about the rules of ambiguity, saying that we were lazy designers, that we had to, that we had to do that because we couldn't anticipate. And it's just like, no, we cannot. The nature of the beast is that we designed it intentionally so that we could not anticipate every possible thing that could happen. That it's actually a feature and not a problem.
A detriment, right?
Yeah, the modularity is one of the things that people love the most.
Yeah.
Guess what? Like, we can't give you that without the rules of ambiguity. So it's to your point, like certain types of players may not like that, but most people, I think, get it, like it, appreciate it, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And there's just so many. Like, if you're playing all of the different sets and combinations, you can't memorize every single rule. Trust me. I definitely don't. And so, as somebody who plays it live on stream with people who obviously know the rules way better than me, I will say that it does pull you out of the immersion, like the constant rules checking and stuff like that. And I'm just like, oh, I'm just going to do this because that victim looks like they need to go now.
Things like leaving the golf cart behind when
exactly.
you should take it with you, right? Yeah, exactly.
Who cares? It's fine. R.I.P. to the golf cart. It was broken, probably anyway. Okay. So I have one more question, and then we have two very special questions. So last question before we get into those. Have you thought about, we kind of touched on this a little bit already, have you thought about making a reversed roles capability where you can play as the villains and try to hunt down the final girl and victims or go against other villains, killers?
You get asked this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we covered this one a lot. Go ahead, Evan. You have the answer.
Sure. The original... I remember this question was asked at Gen Con during our live event. Mm-hmm. But the original design for the game was that you were going to play the killer. And you were going to be killing victims. And so you were going to be the masked movie killer. And there was some appeal to that. I think some people obviously are still interested in it. The question keeps coming up. But when I really thought about the market potential of the game, I knew that if we did it that way, it would limit the game's reach because people like to be the hero. They don't want to be the villain. And while being the villain will appeal to some people, the game would not have reached as far as it has if we had made that choice. So in terms of for the product success and viability, and people just get excited being the hero. They get excited being the final girl. A lot more people are going to get excited about that than being the killer trying to just up their body count. With that said, there's not that we couldn't do some version of it that would allow for that, and would just be like it would have a smaller reach. You know, people would still be interested in it, but we don't have any specific plans for that right now.
Yeah, and I think a key component to that is because it's a solo game. So
yes,
it's one thing if it's a killer versus a final girl and it's a 2-player game or a multiplayer game. That is much easier more palatable as a player to accept versus, okay, if we put you in the killer's shoes and at the end of the game when you're talking about it, like you're going off on the internet and telling everyone how you killed a bunch of people and victims and you won and you like totally 100%, it's a different vibe, a different feel. Like, I don't think that it would be anywhere near as popular if we'd have done that. You're going to get a certain percentage of people who like, me, I would play that. Like, I like some darker themes. I'm okay with that, but it's just not super feel good for your average audience. I think there's a ton of people that play Final Girl that would probably be out on something like that as a solo game. Now, if it's multiplayer and one person gets to, I mean, you see this all the time. What's that? The new game came out at Gen Con and it has detective vibes and one person's like a serial killer and the other detectives are trying to like figure out, y'all know what I'm talking about? Oh, what is this game? Oh, well, that stuff happens all the time and it's okay because someone is playing as the protagonist, right? Like, so yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, one of the
to
things
that.
that clicked for me, which made me shift over and be like, no, we need to do it this way instead, was I imagine, I've played World War II games. I played Axis and Allies a lot, and you can play the Nazis. You play Germany in Axis and Allies, but there's other people playing the Allies, playing the British and the U.S. and the Russians, who were good guys at that point. But I remember thinking, okay, so if it's a solo game and you're just playing the Nazis, like that doesn't work at all. That is a terrible idea. And obviously this is not, Final Girl isn't, because it's a horror movie theme and it's more, it's not nearly as like real world intense as that, but still it still applies.
You're really taking the analogies to 11 today, Evan.
Well, I mean, I realized
the furthest edge example I can give.
But I remember thinking that, like, oh my gosh, if you were playing a solo game as Nazis, that there's no way that would work. And this Final Girl playing as the killer would not even approach that level, but it would still offer some of the same vibes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm not comparing our movie killers to Nazis. I just want to say that.
Good.
I'm going to combine this with the earlier question about in the universe, though, and say, having arena combat for all the killers, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we've talked about skirmish game. I mean, all kinds of.
Yeah.
Yes, like if you start to add a multiplayer element, I think that it opens up a little bit more. But yeah.
I'll just throw this out there. I do have a great concept for a hidden movement game where one person is the killer and the other ones are the final girls. I know AJ just hates when I say it like that.
Okay, well then we'll move on,
The idea is
Evan.
the easy part.
I know.
No, who knows what people will see? I think that's the caveat, right? Like But yeah, there's tons of space for us to explore design-wise and otherwise with Final Girl, so yeah.
This is true. Okay, 2 very special questions from people that you may know. So AJ kind of hinted to this earlier, but we have now allowed some of the Final Girl killers to join our Discord. They begged us, and so now there they are. And so we actually have a question from Hans, and we have a question from the Poltergeist. All right, we'll start with Hans. For those who dare to create me, I would ask, will you ever tire of watching me stalk and hunt my prey? Or will your sick fascination with my brutality continue until the end of time?
You feel attacked, Evan?
No,
I'm feeling a little attacked.
My sick fascination will continue until the end of time. I don't have any problem with owning that.
Amazing. All right. Poltergeist. Sometimes I wonder if the humans truly grasp the concept of fear. They try to capture it in books and movies, but nothing compares to the visceral feeling that grips your heart when you know death is near. If I could ask my creators a question, it would be this. Am I terrifying enough, or do you wish for me to become even more vile presence in their nightmares?
I mean, I know what the fans would say, that she is absolutely terrifying enough, but hey, maybe we give Poltergeist even some more things at her disposal to generate more tears from the Final Girl players, because we are always collecting those for our engines.
Is that our new, that could be our new expansion pack idea. We call them pain packs, or AJ's pack of pain, where you just make even more awful, horrible cards that can be added to your Poltergeist experience.
You thought that was bad?
Yeah, we should have the fans let us know. Do you guys want even more pain? I mean, we could certainly bring more. We'll just stop trying to balance towards the winning side, and we'll just, as long as like you can get killed in 5 seconds, then
save so much time. Thanks.
Yeah, we're just not going to worry about anything else. Good luck.
Good luck.
So yes, Poltergeist, yes, we will make you more terrifying.
Awesome. Can't wait for that. Love it. She already can't be killed, but who cares? No big deal.
Yeah.
No big deal. So those are the questions that we have for today. Before we say our goodbyes, is there anything from anybody here that you'd like to say about Final Girl that you didn't get a chance to say during the Q&A portion of the podcast?
Thank you, everyone, for enjoying playing our game as much or more than we enjoy making it. We could not do this without you.
Oh,
Aww, cute.
it's very heartfelt. After I talked about collecting their tears, Evan swoops in. We love you. No, it's true. Yeah. And we will say, like, if people keep enjoying, keep buying, we will keep making more content. We'll make potentially different games like we've talked about. Who knows? But the key thing is, like, keep supporting the game, keep spreading the love. We're seeing new players and people come in all the time, which is super cool for a game that's been out 3-4 years now. It's been a wild ride, and we're ready to see where it takes us next.
And it's a very fun sandbox to play in.
Yep.
Very true. So that is what we have for today's episode. Another big thank you to AJ and Julie for joining us in this great discussion. Thank you, everyone, for submitting your questions. And don't forget, yes, AJ's showing off his hands again. Hand management, people. It is the lesson of the day. Make sure that you manage those hands carefully and safely. Don't forget to join the Van Ryder Games Discord, where you can ask questions and do all sorts of things. And really, you could talk to killers because they're in there and they say just the craziest things. So you can ask them questions and they will answer. But we hope everybody enjoyed the episode. We will be back again next month with another episode. But for now, we say goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye.
Hand management, everybody.